Welcome viewers, my name is Leslie Waterhouse. I'm a member of the Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan organization that works to inform and educate voters. Joining us today to provide voting information is Anoka County Elections Manager, Tom Hunt. Thank you for joining us today to talk about the Presidential Nominating Primary. What is the Presidential Nominating Primary and what date will it be held?
Sure, so the Presidential Primary is something that was established back in 2016 in legislation. So what that did was it essentially took the presidential nomination process and transferred it from the party caucus system to a presidential primary, which is more like an election that people are used to seeing. So in 2016, if you were someone who wanted to go in and participate in the presidential nomination process, you would have had to find out the date, the time, the location of your party caucus in that location, and then, you know, as you might assume, there can be some challenges with attending that because it is on one specific night at one specific time, and it's in February in Minnesota, so there can be weather challenges. A lot of times, the locations for the caucus can be quite busy, so finding parking can be a challenge as well. And there's also challenges for the party as well because they relied very heavily on volunteers to come in and staff these caucuses. So now, with the presidential primary, again, like I said, it does look more like an election that people are more used to seeing. So we do have the full 46 days of absentee voting. You can vote in Anoka County at your city hall or your town hall, or you can come into the Anoka County Government Center, or you do have the option to vote by mail as well. So there are a lot of benefits to this new system of having the presidential primary. And this year it is actually held on March 5th. So mark that on your calendar, the first Tuesday in March.
So why is this a separate election day? Should it just be combined into our regular August primary election date?
Sure, that was actually laid out in the legislation as well. So in the legislation, it did say that the parties could agree on a different date if they wanted to, but if they couldn't agree on a date, then it would just automatically default to that first Tuesday in March. And you know, in some cases, the parties could both agree that that's the best date anyways, and then that's fantastic. So this year it did work out that it ended up being the first Tuesday in March, and so that is part of the legislation that was written. And there are some other challenges as far as combining it with the August primary as well. I mean, not only the timelines, because you do have to have each party's nominee by, you know, well in advance of the November general, but the way that the presidential primary is set up, each party has their own specific ballot. So in this case, all three of the major political parties in Minnesota did submit a list of candidates. So we'll have 3 different ballots at each polling location. So in the state primary in August, each of the parties are separate, but they're on the same ballot. So it does pose some challenges, and that's why we have it on this date.
So if a person plans to vote in the March 5th presidential primary, why should they also attend the February 27th precinct caucus?
Sure. So we do highly encourage everyone, even though the presidential primary, the nomination process is handled through this election now, there is still a lot of very important party business that needs to take place at the party caucuses. So we definitely encourage you to do that if you would like to be a part of the delegate nomination process, or maybe you want to be a delegate yourself and go to the state or the national conferences for each party. Then you can do that there. But then also there are a number of policy decisions that need to be made. And if you want to have your voice heard in that process, then this is a fantastic opportunity to go out, show up, and have your voice heard in that.
Thank you. And who determines which candidates will be on the ballot?
Yes, so that is completely up to the parties themselves. This year, the parties had up until January 2nd to submit their list of candidates. Like I said, all three major parties in the state did submit their list of candidates by the deadline. So really, it is up to the parties to submit that list. I would mention, though, that as far as the voters are concerned, it's a very good idea to kind of follow that, because the list that they submit on January 2nd is not necessarily who is still going to be in the running for president for that party. There are candidates that do tend to drop out of the race. So I would just make sure to note that, to kind of pay attention to who is still in the race at the time, just because that list of voters on January 2nd may not be the same as who's actually still in the race.
Yeah, so if a person wants to see their sample ballot, how can they do that?
The best way to do that is to go to the Secretary of State's website. There's a number of different ways that you can get there. First, you want to go to mnvotes.org. And then if you click on a number of different links, you can get there through Find Where I Vote or What's on My Ballot. And then essentially what that will do is it'll take you to where you're going to input your zip code and your address. That way the system knows which precinct you vote in. And then you can click on your sample ballot at that time. And then you can view exactly what will be on your ballot on Election Day. But then also, if you wanted to vote absentee, we do have those sample ballots at our office. So if you come in person, you can view them before you vote, or we would be happy to mail those out to anyone that requests them.
Well, thank you for answering some questions today.
Absolutely.